right, here we are. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I am very honored, very pleased to welcome my guest, Mr. Steve Wood of the Northern Cree Singers. I should start off by saying the internationally acclaimed, world-renowned singing group. For those that might not be familiar with who Northern Cree is or who Steve is, Northern Cree is a very, very well-known, well-respected singing group, Native American singing group from the First Nations of Canada. And Steve, it's really awesome to have you on the show. Welcome. Thank you for being my guest today.
Hi, John. Mitten kinanaskum tino may pagtinino muta and tumian ni stagapea tutamangi. Going mo pugi going skate then magaya gagia sunamago and magsgate tamuan and to wait the manta sunamwa katagaisino. Kinanaskum tina agakyo. Greetings to you all. Thank you, John, for the introduction, and I'm grateful to be here today. Hi.
Thank you, Steve. It's really awesome to have you on. We've been going for a little while now, and obviously, me personally speaking, I've always been a fan of the drum group, of what you guys do, what you continue to do, and your success is very unparalleled, I think, across all of the Great Turtle Island. And I think it's really an honor to have you on. I want to first kind of preface what we're going to talk about is not only the group Northern Cree, but a lot of things that are going on throughout the world right now. There's a lot going on, but as always, all throughout Indian country, and here in the States, I'm not exactly sure in Canada, but I know here in the States, there's been a declaration of the month of November as being Native American Heritage Month. And I always say for us Native people, every month is Native American Heritage Month. But I think it's a great platform for the Native people to be recognized and to talk about some things and be willing to share some things that, need to be heard for all of our listeners out there. I think, Steve, you're definitely in a unique position, being the head singer of a very well-respected, well-acclaimed singing group. And when I say the Northern Cree Singers, down here in America, we have our football, and we'll talk about the Ohio State or the Miami, University. We'll say the Northern Cree, but you guys aren't as big of football fans up in Canada as you are, say, hockey, though, I would think, right? I mean,
hockey's number one for us up here.
Who's your team, man? Is it the Oilers?
I'm afraid to mention them right now because they aren't doing so well. But I've been an Edmonton Oilers fan ever since their inception into the NHL. I've seen all of the Oilers teams. I've been fortunate to see all the glory years with the great teams that they've had, and I'm hoping that our team here turns the corner really soon.
Are there any natives playing in the NHL right now that you're aware of?
Yes, there's actually a few. There's quite a few, and we're starting to be recognized. Cool. Like we have Brandon Montour out there playing for, I think it's the Florida Panthers. We have Ethan Bear. He's from Saskatchewan. He's currently on the Vancouver Canucks roster. There's a few people out there that are starting to make strides in the NHL.
Is the off season? Obviously, for powwow folks, if you're on the powwow circuit, summertime is really big for all of our traveling. We're a lot of away from home a lot, and there's traveling involved. As we've kind of gotten into the colder months now, what does the off season look like for Northern Cree for you, Steve?
Well, it really depends. It used to be when way back when we were first starting out, basically the powwows we attended were over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But now, today, like powwows are happening all over across North America. I think there's a few happening this weekend, and it can
Sure.
vary for us on the destinations that we're heading to and when we're going to them. But right now, you're absolutely right. Up in Cree country, it is round dance time. That is when the snow first falls on the ground. Is when we start having our round dances till the end, till the snow starts disappearing in the spring. And that's some of the gatherings that we'll be attending are the round dance ceremony. In fact, there's one here in our community tonight, and there's
Mm.
like probably 15 to 20 that are happening across the two provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan over this weekend. And I know like round dance has gone out just like powwow to other nations, and they're starting to have round dances as well. From my perspective, I think it's a good thing because from time immemorial, no matter what the Western Europeans have taught us in their education systems, we've always interacted and traded with one another. And we had
Mm-hmm.
roads and highways here. They were rivers that connected us to one another. So having this time to share ceremonial gatherings and be a part of it with other nations, I think it's just awesome. And to be able to lend those experiences to other nations so that they can gather as well is great. I know like we just went out to the East Coast a few weeks ago to
Mm-hmm.
a tribe out there, a Mi'kmaq tribe, um, who had their first round dance ever, and it was phenomenal. It was really well accepted, and uh, a lot of the people came out because there's a hunger all over North America for First Nations people to really find uh, the true meaning of being First Nations.
Absolutely. You know, I, I I can't emphasize enough how um, what you've just mentioned. You know, like the transition that we have from powwows to round dances, our so-called off season, if that's what you want to call it. You know, it's for the northern folks. It's the time when everything gets colder and we're indoors and all of that. I think it's fantastic. I would actually I think that I know you and some of the singers have come down to the States, and I've probably ran into you more at the round dances the last few years than I have at powwows, just because you know you guys are all over the place and you know being invited here and there. So it's good to see. I hope to see you again. You know, and if I can get up to Canada, I'd love to come check it out up there. I've never actually been to a round dance in Canada yet, so but with COVID and all the travel that we that was if you want to talk about that, I mean, what was your experience like going through COVID and that whole travel experience? I mean, we shut down basically powwows for 2 years.
Well, yeah, we didn't travel very much. We did have some of our group members stay in contact and get together. And we did our part to try to send positive energy for our people and all other people that needed it by giving some singing,
Mm-hmm.
some talking over Zoom and Google presentations on the internet. That was our way of trying to help people get by that period, and also to keep like our own singing and our storytelling going, as it has for many centuries.
I kind of almost looked at, you know, when we were at powwow or might be emceeing a powwow or something. I remember talking about how when we first started getting back together and our first kind of powwows back, you noticed everybody had new outfits or new
Yep.
beadwork, and the singers had new songs and new drums. I mean, it was almost, if you want to call it, a way of like starting over fresh, you know. And I'd like to think, I'd like to be an optimist. I'd like to think that it's been a positive thing. It's you know, I mean, if we talk about ever returning back to what it once was, I don't know if we'll ever be there again, but you know, we're definitely into uncharted territory with the way things have changed, and I'd like to think for the better,
I
for
would
the most
think
part.
like yes, you're correct on that, John. There was change after the pandemic, but if you look
Mm,
at over the years, even before the pandemic, from my time watching my father and them sing in the '60s, powwow has evolved greatly. It's yeah, the singing is a little bit more intense, a little bit more enhanced. I used to see like
mm,
groups of maybe 4 or 5. Now you have like 10 to 12, and the power in the group is a lot more intense.
mm,
It's very powerful. And then like even the dancing styles have changed, and people will either take it as a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's good. I've seen powwow evolve, and it's become bigger, and there's
mm-hmm,
more people being brought in, and some of the people that haven't really been brought up in First Nations traditions that are First Nations. It is a way of them to start connecting back.
mm-hmm,
And the first thing that people look for when they're looking for their identity, the first thing that they look out for is usually a powwow. Go to a powwow and meet other people, and they start talking and interacting with other people. I think it's a great thing, and I think like when I look at it, nothing ever stays stagnant over a period of time. Evolution is good, and I think like it's only going to get better. And I think we have something here that we can share with the rest of the world.
mm,
It was probably I was about 13 years old when I first went to my first music concert in a place called Edmonton, Alberta, at the newly built uh, Rexall Coliseum.
mm,
And I went to this concert with a couple of friends of mine. I was actually on my way to a powwow in Sarcee with them and with their parents. And I was sitting there watching this first concert, and I was thinking, I was watching the people and these people presenting, and I thought, why can't we put our music on the stage and perform it like this? I mean, our original
mm-hmm,
music,
mm-hmm,
like powwow and round dance, flute music,
mm,
etc. And I thought, we can. It's about how we present it to the people. And now, over a period of time, I've seen that happen. And I think it can even evolve to a greater thing.
right.
And it, the years that I taught in the school, and I seen those young kids, the hunger that they have, and for them to understand, you don't have to emulate anyone else. You can be yourself as a Cree person, as an Anishinaabe, as a Puata, as a Sioux, as a Navajo.
Mm-hmm.
You can be yourself and still aspire to great things in life. And I want young people to know that. And as you heard, like at the beginning, I always address people in my language, in our first languages. It's so important because everything we are as
Yes.
First Nations people, our ceremonies, our culture, our identity is directly connected to our languages.
Yes.
They're so
Absolutely.
important, and I think like those things can happen, and they're happening now. I've witnessed it. I've been a part of it, and at the beginning you said like we were like trailblazers and stuff like that. When we got on those stages to do that, everything in my mind was all about where it was going and who it was for, and it was always about my children, your grandchildren, all
Mm-hmm,
of our young people to
mm-hmm,
after all of these years, these decades, these last couple of centuries where uh, our identity was always diminished and that we weren't really anyone.
mm,
Wow, I think like our the very fabric of powwow, round dance, the singing, that's lifting that veil, and the people are starting to understand that. geez, there's so much more. So a lot of people have come up to me, non-native people, and have asked me, what, after, they've heard a song or something, the drum, they're standing, but why do I feel like that? You know what my
Mm,
answer to them is?
mm,
Only you would know that,
mm.
because it's a special feeling, and there's nobody else that gets the same feeling. And I think we have so much more that we can give. Uh, we have something that's beautiful, and and the world needs it right now. The world needs all of that, and I
Yeah.
think we have something that's good to share. Really, a lot, even but beyond powwow and round dance, in our own
Mm.
teachings about life in general. I think the world needs that.
Um, Truly inspiring words. I hope that our listeners out there, that this reaches as wide of an audience as possible, because I think those are things that need to be heard, especially today's day and age. Um, Now, the group itself, Northern Cree, you guys have just been over 40 years together as a group now. Um, when you talk about seeing those things as a kid, and forming the group, I think many of us have heard some of the origin stories, and the first drum that you guys had that said Northern Cree on it. I mean, that's very interesting and inspiring origin stories. when when you formed the group with you and your brothers, um did you have that in mind with the group, like where you would be at, where you have taken it today? I mean, performing on the biggest stages in the world, performing at the Grammys, performing at the Aboriginal People's Choice Awards. I mean, these great accomplishments and these accolades. Was that even remotely even close to your mind when you guys first started in the early 80s?
No, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. We were just
Mm,
doing something that made us feel good and that we had seen growing up in our home. And when we say
mm,
like Northern Cree was formed in 1982, physically that's true.
mm,
And there's a whole story behind that, as you mentioned. But I think the idea of Northern Cree was implanted way back in the early 60s in
mm,
that home in Sad Lake, where
mm,
that man would have visitors to the house, and they would have like drum sessions.
mm,
The first round dance that I ever seen was in the home, was in our
mm,
home, and there was a whole ceremony behind it, behind the round dance, and there was singing involved. And I always say, like, people say, like, yeah, they have round dances in the hall. You know what I'm going to say? I was never taken to a round dance in a hall till I was probably in the 70s. And I
mm,
was always thinking, well, maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe we were just never taken. But I did see those things in the home. And we didn't really have any thought about the grandeur stuff. In
mhm,
fact, when we first got nominated for a Grammy, what did we do? I'd only
mhm,
seen it on television. That's
mhm,
all I seen it, and I seen the like on television like that they had like suits and that. So what did we do? We all rented these uncomfortable penguin suits with uncomfortable shoes, and we were dressed like that for the entire day. It was an I'm gonna say it was an awful day.
absolutely.
And then after that, when we got the second time, the guys were asking me, "What are you going to wear?" I said, "I'm going to go as us." They said, "What do you mean?" "I'm going to dress up in one of our vests and wear moccasins and whatnot." From there on,
Mm,
we've always dressed like in traditional First Nations gear. When we hit those red carpets, we want to represent our people and who we are. We're not going to emulate somebody else and that. And we've had some great stories on those red carpets, by the way, just by being dressed as who our people are. It's been an amazing experience,
yeah.
but there was never any thought about Grammys or Junos or
Mm,
anything like that. It was all about we were just singing because it made us feel good, and it was something that we liked to do, something
mm,
that we seen my father do, and who knew? Who knew that it was going to happen? Like
mm,
I didn't have any inkling like of the things that have happened and continue
mm,
to happen today. Um, all I know is that as I'm getting older, uh, we want to do good so that we can open those doors for the next generation. Like I mentioned to you earlier, it's about inspiring the young people to believe that they can do anything in the world and they don't have to emulate anyone else. They can be themselves. They can still aspire to some of the greatest things in the world. It's really cool. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think like we've just been blessed to be a messenger and a vehicle. There's so many more people out there that deserve the kudos. The people before us that kept this way alive when it wasn't cool to be Indian at all, and that
Mm-hmm.
and they kept it going. Like I always think, like I remember about the great late Bill Baker, the late Gordon McGillivray, late Sam McGillivray, late Pat Kennedy, late Norman Wood, late Alec Wood. All of those people that
Mm-hmm.
they still thrived when it wasn't cool to be Indian. And there's probably a heck of a lot more out there. Probably some people that I'm not mentioning from your community because I don't know who they are, but they were probably doing the same thing. They're the ones to be given credit really for what's happening today.
You just mentioned, and I'm glad you touched on this topic because I think it's always important to pay homage, give that respect to our elders, those that have gone before us. Um, I think it's beyond safe to say that Northern Cree has been a trendsetter in more ways than one in the singing and bringing that good music to dressing in your traditional wear on the red carpet. I mean, that's something we see all the time now, and you guys are one of the first groups that I can remember as a group, as a powwow singing group that did that. And that was very powerful and that was very inspirational to a lot of people all across Native country. Um, let's, if I could, talk a little bit more about your influences, your singing influences. When you guys were first coming together as a group, who did I mean, you definitely had a unique sound, and I think I remember. I'm old enough to remember that uh, way back then it was kind of that time in the '80s when drum groups were really trying to be different. They wanted a very unique sound, and you kind of don't hear that as much nowadays. I think if the way that a lot of drum groups maybe sounded more similar in the 70s, the 80s and 90s were very much being radically different. And now you kind of see it coming full circle again to where drum groups are kind of starting to sound a little bit more similar. What were some of your influences as you guys were coming together as a group to help you form that sound that became so distinct as Northern Cree?
Well, my biggest influence was probably my father and my uncles. But over a period of time, like watching different singers, I there was a guy that used to come to our reserve. He was brought up to host the powwow, and he was phenomenal. I used to stand by his drum and
Mm-hmm.
watch him and the other old guys sing. His name was Bill Baker, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, if anybody knows him, he's legendary.
Mm-hmm.
He's the head guy of the legendary Mandaree Singers, and today his sons carry that on, and his
Mm-hmm.
grandsons. It's
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. Like when people talk about legendary groups, I think those are legendary. That they're still going after the guy who started them is not here, and they still have the same power.
Mm-hmm.
I think that another one that I watched in the as I was growing were when Red Bull first came in. I'd stand there and I really watched the guy that led the group, not the lead singer, not the lead drummer, the guy that led the group. I would sit there and watch all of the moves and I kind of fashioned after some of what he did because I got that thought from him that the group is bigger than any one individual,
Mm-hmm.
and because I watched how he ran his drum group, and he didn't lead sing like I said, but he was a big part of that group, and what happened to it, and that was Edmund Bull, and
Mm-hmm.
today like. He's receiving an honor from the Saskatchewan Music Federation. I think he's very deserving.
Mm-hmm.
and what he's accomplished in his life. And he continues to do the same thing. But he was a big influence. When I see there are people that influence me today, uh, even people that are singers today, and it's all about a doing to get along with everybody in the circle. That's the biggest thing. Even though we compete with one another,
Mm-hmm.
doing is big, and Tapatim went to use it in a humble manner, you know. And I think like, well, those are a couple, but I think my biggest influences, like I said, are my father and my uncles from way back when I'd sit there in the living room and they would
Mm-hmm.
sing. And then sometimes like us kids would dance in the living room. It was
Yeah.
like pure magic. We
Yeah.
didn't have television back then. So it was like pure magic all night. And then
Right.
you'd sit around and listen to the stories in between the songs. And that's where you learned language as well because it was all in Cree.
Mm. Very strong influences right there. Um, I think it's just interesting to look back, um, 40 plus years. You guys have been together on paper as a group, like you said, physically, but it goes back further than that. Um, what are what are some words of advice that you could give to maybe some other singing groups, other groups out there? You guys have been around, and you're not the only ones. But there's been other groups. You talk about Mandaree. There's other groups out there as well that have been able to withstand the test of time. Um, that I think keeping a drum group together, you've definitely gone through it, different collections, different phases of singers. I've seen that from a lot of different drum groups. I mean, you get different groups. Maybe a different lead singer comes in, and you get different groups of singers. But the one constant has always been you as the leader of the drum. What are some things? I mean, if you just want to talk about maybe kind of these past 4 decades, with what it was like with your original crew, and then moving on to different singers. What's been some of the secrets to keeping a group together for that long?
Definitely, John. The group has, like I said, evolved, and it's changed over a period of time for a number of reasons. One, some people leave this plane, um, meaning they've gone on to the next world.
Hmm.
Some people have gone on to develop their own drum groups, and just some people have gone on to do other things, um, which is okay. Uh, I'm always of the mind that there's so many people out there that want to sit down and sing that somebody else will sit in in that seat. And the one thing I always try to profess is I'm not going to use the word equality because I don't believe that
Hmm.
in the terms of humanity. Um, I don't think there's equality even between male and female. Just not my own personal thinking, but the world as they view it. They say there is, but I don't think there is. Um, I would say more of a fairness
Hmm.
to everyone. That means in everything that you do, that you're fair with how you allow everybody to have a space in the circle, but their input is just as important as yours.
Hmm.
Everything that comes to the drum, be it tobacco, blankets, monetary gifts, that is split equally
Hmm.
amongst everyone. And I mean everyone in that circle. That's those ladies included that are
Hmm.
singing with you because
Hmm.
they're very much a part of your group. So all of them, everything in fairness. They're all treated like family. Wherever you go, we take care of one another. It's not about I get to sleep in a hotel. The rest of you have to find places in your cars. We take care of one another. Everybody, and that's including your extended family. That means if they have children too. And my
Hmm.
my thinking is like we've come so far now that I always ensure two things, three things. One, all of you are going to sleep properly. You're not going to sleep in cars and you're not going to sleep on floors. Two, you're all going to eat for sure. Three, you're all going to get home safely. from wherever we go because we're all going to look after each other.
mm,
It's not about just me getting there and you guys get there on your own, and
mm,
we take care of one another, the whole
mm,
group. And
mm,
and who takes care of us? Our drum. Muslim's going to take care of everything. If you really believe in him, he's going to take care of everything. He's going to
mm,
make sure that he's going to make sure that your road is lit and safe when you drive if you do the proper protocols for him. Every uh, every year we do this. We do this. I'm going to share this with you, and this is an yearly thing for our group. Marcus has come up and joined us on a couple occasions, but we have ceremony every spring. Our group has it where we feed our drum spirit, and
mhm,
we all go ceremony together. We sweat together, and we see one particular elder that does that for us, and we never forget. I never forget, and it's not
mm,
all the times that all the group members can be there, but they're there in prayer and with us, and the prayer is for them as well and their families and everyone else that's traveling out there. And I've always thought that was a good way to start off the summer season, and just
mm,
have prayer for everyone. We are truly blessed to have this way of life. We are fortunate, and I don't know why when you're talking about these things that we've been able to accomplish or do, I don't know why it was us, but
mhm,
uh, we are blessed. We are truly blessed, and we are
mm,
truly thankful and grateful. There are so many stories I can share with you, like things that I've experienced from the drum, which is phenomenal. I never experienced those
mm,
things anywhere else, right? But I would say to drum group leaders, treat everybody fairly. Everyone,
mm,
even the guy that's just learning the beat, even the guy that he doesn't know the songs.
mhm,
Treat them all fairly, because that guy that doesn't know the songs could evolve into probably maybe your best singer, and someday
mhm,
he might be helping you. And to treat everybody fairly, not just around your circle, but everybody within that powwow circle. Treat them with kindness, ksewatsuin, kindness for everyone. You know,
mm.
and, don't worry so much about the competitions. You're not going to win all the competitions. It's a fact of life.
Right,
You know,
right.
uh, you know, uh, and be grateful when you do. Um,
Mm,
and don't really dwell on that. Think about why you did it in the first place. And like I started off with, when you asked me those questions, I said
mm,
it was because we love to do it. That's it, just to sit around a drum and sing from
right.
what we see. Think about those things. Those things will take you further. And really, if you believe in those things, the drum can take you to places you never even dreamed of. I know that for a fact.
I think that absolutely, without a doubt, uh, agree with you and love that take on it because I think that's something that needs to be said. It needs to be heard. And for those listening out there, um, you know, take it for what it is. And be real about it. Um, I, for one, I want to share a story with you. Um, I remember listening to those first I think it was those first two tapes that came out. They both kind of, one was like a darker cover and one kind of had a pink cover, and they said Northern Cree on them. They were tapes, and they had those good songs on there. It had that crow hop on there. Gakeo Paseko with the big pause. Gakeo. Yeah. I mean, those are like iconic songs, and we all grew up for us generation that are my age or a little bit younger. I would listen to those songs, and I remember watching some video, and I look back on, like, you can find old recordings of powwows from like the 80s or even before on YouTube now. People upload those, and the power of technology now is awesome. And I remember these tapes have been long gone, but I remember it was my my family's group. I didn't go along with. I was just a kid, but they went out to Browning, Montana in 1988, and they sang next to Northern Cree. And I know that a couple of the boys were like kind of jumping in on a few songs and showed a bunch of songs. And when they came back after that, I mean, they had videotape, and I was just like, I'd watch it, and I was like, dang, like never heard of Northern Cree before, but I was like, these guys are badass. And it was very inspirational. And I remember listening to those tapes as well. And I remember sitting around, we'd have drum sessions as kids too. And one of the first songs that I ever actually took a lead, I got tricked into leading because that older brother of mine, he said, yeah, me and you lead same time, kind of gave that symbol. And I said, okay. So I tried to lead, and it was an old song off that tape. And then I let it up, and he didn't lead. And then I led all by myself, and it came out pretty good. And I was like, hey, that was the first time I ever led, and it was to a Northern Cree song. So very inspiring story. I thought I'd share that with you. I'm sure there's a lot of other stories out there in Indian country with other singers who, you guys have touched different generations of singers. And I think that's important. And it's very much given respect to you, Steve, and respect to the group for what you've done and what you will continue to do in a good way. I think that's good advice. Um, moving up to, from humble beginnings to where you are now. What was give us 2023 in review? We're getting close to December, getting close to the end of the year. What was 2023 like for you guys as a group? Give us some of the highlights from this past year.
Well, we visited a number of communities in 2023. I it's like over the years, it's become amazing that people are inviting us to their communities, and we try to visit communities that we haven't been to yet. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if they're like it's their first powwow, or if they're way up in fly-in communities that where we might be the only drum group for their powwow, which is okay. Those I
Mm-hmm.
really relish because I think these people are really looking for that what I was talking about, that uplifting that the drum can bring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're just messengers and there to share it with them and to influence them in a positive way. So we went to a few of those kind of communities where we flew into, and I'll always have memories like that because this one community that we flew in, there was about 2 to 3 thousand people that lived in this community, First Nations people. No roads. The only roads that they could get in were the winter roads. That's it, because there's so many lakes around there. But it was a phenomenal experience with the people there, and the young kids that would just come around, and I mean, they just talk to you about stuff that they seen on the internet, like what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think like, wow, we're able to reach people today where we've never even went to physically. And it's a great thing to be like I said, a messenger, and to be sharing those things with other people. So those were some of the memorable communities we went to. We went to for the first time a place called White Earth in Minnesota. Last year, where the people were just phenomenal with their hospitality, and some of the stories that were shared to us there were, just exceptional stories of their band and their tribe and their powwow celebration there. We also went to uh, the Sac and Fox tribe for the first time in Oklahoma, and that
Mm-hmm.
was quite the experience because there was one point there where we were asked to sing an intertribal, and they had moved this their celebration into this huge basketball stadium because there was rain happening during that weekend there, so they couldn't happen it on they couldn't have it on their traditional powwow grounds, which was something I would have liked to have checked out there. We did go check out where the powwow grounds was, and a beautiful powwow grounds, but it
Mm-hmm.
was too damp to be out there. So they had it in this building. Man, that building was packed. I mean, to the rafters, on both
Yeah.
sides. It was packed
Yeah.
like all the way around. Wow, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
they asked us to sing this intertribal on Saturday night. So we sang this song, and I'm going to tell you about this song because this is the same song that we also used uh, when we performed at the Juno Awards in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the song, at the Junos, they asked me, can you say some stuff in Cree at the end? So I was thinking of something to say that would be profound. I came across this one statement from a, uh, a fellow when the residential school was being introduced to my community. And we had four chiefs because there was four bands that were put together to create Saddle Lake. And we had four chiefs there. His name was Blue Quills. And when the missionaries had come and they were trying to build a school, because the original Blue Quills was built on Saddle Lake, they were trying to build a school, and the chief wouldn't let them, didn't want that school to happen. But he was overcome. He knew that they were going to just go ahead and build it, and he agreed to it with one condition. He said, because all of those schools were named after like Saint this, Saint that, that, but this school, he wanted it to be named after him, Blue Quills. And the reason was he didn't want the kids to go in there and forget who they were. That was a big thing for him. When he signed that paper saying it was okay for them to build that school, his son-in-law, a guy by the name of William Delver, was standing there with him. And William expressed this: Kagi gis panatamasok bimatsuin. We went sa sinmaga kanay hiawatsi we aiman. And what that said was, yep, in this life, through this school, you'll be able to earn a living. But it'll be difficult to still be Cree. And I thought about that, and it made a lot of sense. Was talking about like our identity and our language and what they did in those schools.
Right.
So that's the words that I used. Well, my son, who's very talented, took those words and put them into a song. And we sang that song at the Sack and Fox Intertribal. And I don't know if the people probably didn't understand what the lyrics were, but it really moved them. And there was a couple of whistles blown on that song. When I watched after, the whole stadium, even the people in the stands were on their feet while the people were dancing and whatnot. The whistles they were actually dancing in the stands, just going.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. And that was like, wow. I was like, wow. For some reason, that song moved all those people. And I read the comments after. Sometimes I'll flip through, like I'll listen to the videos. Somebody recorded the video, listen to the song, and I scroll sometimes looking at the comments and the impact that song had on people. And sometimes they probably wonder, why was it so impactful? And I think it's because of what was phrased in that song, how powerful those words were. And it wasn't just for the Cree people, it was for all of our people. What Western society influenced on our people and tried to do about killing off the Indian, our languages, our culture, was really referenced well in what William said through those residential schools. Yeah, you'll be able to make a living, but will you still be Indian? Will you still be Cree? He's talking about our languages. He's talking about our ways, right? And because
Powerful.
of our strength of our elders and our people, we're still here, no matter what was done to us. All of our people across what is known as Turtle Island, North America, we're still here. Perseverance and thank you to our elders who, like I said earlier, to those men that kept this way of singing alive when it wasn't cool to be Indian. They deserve all the credit.
Absolutely. It's just remarkable, this journey that you've been on. Remarkable feat of success But I would like to reiterate too, because as Native people, we're humble, and it's often difficult for us to talk about our success because oftentimes we see that people don't want to see you success; they want to see you fail. And um, I'll just reiterate that at the end of the day, I mean. I've known you guys for a long time as well and seen you sing for many years. And I know that you um, put your moccasins on one foot at a time, just like everybody else does. And but it's a commitment to success. It's a dedication to hard work and being ethical about what you do and having integrity to each other. And it takes a lot of commitment from our families too. When we live
Yes.
this life that we live, there's so much travel involved. And if you can include your family or the sacrifices that the family that has to stay home when you're gone to keep things going on the home front, we have to give them credit where credit is due as well, because they're a big part of our success. I kind of always say the same things when I talk about our veterans. We always recognize and honor and respect our vets out there. It was just recently Veterans Day here in the States, and I was emceeing a powwow last weekend, and I talk about that. And I always tell people it's our veterans. Yes, we recognize them, but we also recognize our families at home who gave up a lot and had those sacrifices to help our veterans. Have a place to come back home to, and to provide that love and that respect, and that good medicine. So I think a lot of these things, whether it's powwows or whether it's traveling, and whether it's the things that we do personally or professionally, they all have a way of coming back together. And I think that speaks a lot about what you, as a man, as a lead singer, as a lead of the Northern Cree, what the drum has done itself. Very much epitomizes that story. Um, I know that you guys have a um, relatively new album out there. I think it released in 22, but I'm not going to attempt to say the Cree. I mean, I can speak Menominee a little bit, but I'm not going to try and attempt the Cree. But I know that the album is titled A New Beginning, and it was published in 22. And you also have some new upcoming. I know you have a single out there on Apple iTunes and Spotify, and our digital. That's our new platform to get everything. I don't know if anything's CDs anymore, a little bit maybe, but everything's a digital platform. Um, you have some new music coming out, Steve. Talk a little bit about what's coming.
Okay, I'm gonna talk. I will, John. Thanks for allowing me to speak on that. But first, I want to just emphasize one thing about a lot of the things that I picked up were shared to me from elders and former singers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of I've come across a lot of singers in
Mm-hmm.
my lifetime. It was one guy that sang with us for a while, traveled with us for a bit. It was at a new powwow in a place called Wabasca, their first powwow,
Mm-hmm.
and we were hosting there. And we were sitting at the drum. I can still picture this guy. Him and his brother had come to sing with us, and myself and a guy named Chopper Ferlin McGillivray were sitting at the drum with these two older guys. And then the older guy, he was eating a snow cone. I remember this like just a plain snow cone. And he goes to me. There was dancers dancing. He said, "Boy, this drum is gonna go all over the place. He's gonna be loud." He told me that, and he said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell you this. You're gonna hear all kinds of things, all kinds of things. Some things will be negative, some things will be positive. Some of them will be trying to deter you, put you down, and that. I'm gonna tell you one thing. If you're doing something and singing, and you look around, just like when you guys sing, that whole dance floor goes and all these people come around the drum. That's because you're doing something positive. You're giving them a positive energy. Don't listen to that stuff. Keep doing what you're doing. And I want to tell the singers out there, if you see that, you got it makes you feel good, makes
Mm-hmm.
other people feel good, just continue what you're doing. I'm telling you that. Yeah, we have that. Our latest album was Skimatsi Tawin. That means a new beginning in our language. And the reason why we called it that is because this is our very first album that we own. Out of all the albums that we ever recorded, we don't own the masters. We didn't know anything about music. And in fact, we when we started singing, we weren't even thinking about recordings.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole story behind how those recordings came about. We were hosting in Fort Duchesne, Utah, and we were
Mm-hmm.
hosting with two very well recognized drum groups, the Black Lodge Singers and the Blackstone Singers. And this guy had come up from Phoenix, and he wanted to record us. My late older brother had been talking to him, late Charlie. And when we got there, where we were supposed to sit, well, they had all these mics, and here's this guy who was ready to record. And okay, well, and we sang a couple of times, and my younger brother Randy was talking to him, and he told me, Steve, you talked to him. I didn't know anything about the music industry or anything like that. So I was talking to this guy, and he says, our standard thing is $500, and we'll give you a hundred tapes. I thought, huh? That's been always like our company has given that to the other people that we recorded. Well, it just so happened that those first two tapes that you're talking about there, we recorded ourselves in a studio in Muscochis.
Mm-hmm.
And and then we found somebody to create the tapes, and we had gone to we were invited to Red Earth at the time in Oklahoma. It was a huge powwow
Mm-hmm.
at the Marriott Center, and my our late brother Stony Whiskey Jack, he sold like I think it was like about 380 tapes there at $10 each. At the time, that was a lot of money. That was $3,800.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of money. And this guy came and he asked like $500, and I thought that doesn't sound right.
No.
And I went back and
No.
I told Randy, and I said that doesn't sound right, brother. And I said I'm not going to tell him that. No, we don't want to. That so I went and told this guy like, no, we can't do that. I think it's because, and I told him why. And then he comes back after and he said, where are you staying at? This was a guy by the name of Robert Doyle.
Mm-hmm.
Where you guys staying at? I told him my hotel, and well, what room? He said, can my boss call you in the morning? I said, okay. So this guy called me. The founder of Canyon Records, Ray Boley, called me, and he asked
Mm-hmm.
me about this recording, and I started talking to him. I said, I don't think that's fair. That's not right for us anyway. If you want to record us, this is
Mm-hmm.
he said, well, what will it take to record you guys? And I came up with a dollar figure. I said, well, $500 doesn't cut it in 100 CDs, 100 tapes. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, we're gonna need like X amount of dollars, and we're gonna need like at least 1,000 units, or I think it was 1,500 units.
Mm-hmm.
He said, let me think about it. And then he called me back after. He said, okay, we'll do it. But please don't tell other people we're doing this as a one-time thing. So I talked to Randy and I said, okay. He said, let's do that. So our first recording, that third album live at Fort Duchesne, that was our first recording. And I think we changed like how people treated the singers in terms of what they were getting in terms of recordings right then and there. Because after that recording, he kept
Mm-hmm.
coming back. And
Mm-hmm.
then we'd renegotiate and stuff like that. But the one thing, because I didn't know anything about the music industry, all of the big dollars are in the masters. You
Mm-hmm.
owning the masters,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it is. Now we didn't have any say on the masters, so today we don't really get any funding off of the first 30 some albums that we were ever recorded. We
Mm-hmm.
get a little bit like of royalties, but nothing much.
Right.
What we're seeing is a bigger return on doing our own recordings now, and moving them ourselves. And I would encourage uh, uh, other groups and people starting out to make sure that they are in ownership of the master, and not to
Mm-hmm.
have that signed over to anyone. That is where, like, if people come back, our music is being used in television programs, movies, and stuff like that,
Right.
radio programs. Every time it's on there, there's dollars for that group, and
Kickback. Yep.
that's and it's
Royalties.
all
Yeah.
in the master. You own the
Hmm.
master, you own it all. That's it.
Right.
And there's
Right.
nobody cutting in on you. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to encourage you to get that recording and make sure you own that master. That's important.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing, and we have a new album coming out. We
Hmm.
haven't titled it yet. We recorded it, as you mentioned
Okay.
earlier, John. There are a couple singles out there, and
Hmm.
but the new recording won't be released till the spring is when we're planning on releasing it. And
Well,
we recorded it in Gordon, Saskatchewan. We had like our full group. We had 15 men around the drum and our two lady backup singers. That's the recording is really well done, and we recorded it with a First Nations fella.
mm,
Uh, his company, that's fledgling company, is called Hidden Records, and
mm,
his recording equipment is phenomenal. It is
hmm.
phenomenal, and that young man is a Stephen Arrow Topknot. He is working diligently to get those spaces open at all of those venues, those award places again, like at the Grammys, getting our own category again.
Hmm.
He is working diligently
Hmm.
on that, and I would encourage for all of us to work together. At one person's success, I see uh, Mr. Jacob Faithful, who's
Hmm.
starting out like his own business of
Young spirit.
creating
Yep.
where young spirit where
Hmm.
I say, like, support those companies, because one of our people's success is all of our successes, all of us.
Hmm.
That's it. And we
Hmm.
move forward. As I mentioned earlier, it's about
Hmm.
opening those doors for those young people so that they don't have to be anybody else. They can be themselves.
I think that's a good point too, because I mean, when we talk about drum groups or even dancing, like the just the powwows of themselves, it was and still is today very much something to go and do, to have fun, to be social, to celebrate our culture and our society. But very much so, I think that the drum groups, that you're creating a brand. It's very much a business. It's highly marketable. There's money to be made, and we always want to emphasize it's not about the money. That's not why we started singing. It wasn't to make money. This wasn't like a business, but it very much is a business mindset, and you can take that approach. I see more and more individuals and groups taking that approach because you have to, and you have to toe the line. You can't undercut, and anybody who goes out there and undercuts and says, well, if you're going to do it, host for this much, well, we'll do it for this, and then that kind of just de-escalates the all the work, deconstructs the work that has been put into it. So very much, yes, go out there and continue to support and encourage our native businesses and our native entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
for the work that they're doing.
You're absolutely right, John. And like, when people think about it, like I said, powwow has evolved. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, back when I was a kid, the furthest that we went as a family were, and it seemed like it was a far away place. It seemed like Onion Lake, Frog Lake. That's where we'd go for the visiting communities. We weren't going across North America and whatnot. How much would that cost to
Mm-hmm.
take your drum group? People don't rationalize with that.
Right.
Today,
Right.
groups are going from one end of the continent to the other end of the continent.
Right.
It's evolving, and I think it's a good thing, and again, opening those doors and being able to share with one another. But of course, like with travel, it's costly. It's costly, and for me, like, if anybody invites us to and we say we're gonna, yes, yes, we will honor your invitation. If anybody knows Northern Cree, it's going to be Northern Cree. It's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be one or two guys and a whole bunch of different group members that you can't sing the songs that are being asked for because
Mm-hmm.
most of your group don't know those songs.
Mm-hmm.
If it, we're invited, we're going to honor that in a good way, and we're going to come with Northern Cree. And when we're called upon, we're going to sing whatever you're asking for right now because that's what you asked for, and that's our job. And that's why you asked us to come. But it is like people are traveling great distances, and it costs money to travel. And when you look at groups today, they're anywhere from 8 to 12 people. Uh, yeah, it costs money to travel. And then like what you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about, undercutting and whatnot, I think like it's not when people say like, oh, well, that group got 10,000 or
Mm-hmm.
15,000.
Mm-hmm.
But hang on, it took them 2 days to drive to this place.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a
Mm-hmm.
ways. And plus they have to think about their gas, their food, their lodging, and getting home okay. All
Mm-hmm.
of that. People have to consider the wear and tear on a vehicle. Everything like that. Every time you drive a vehicle that far, there's always wear and tear on the vehicle. I think we've opened some doors for groups as well because
Mm-hmm.
back in the early '80s, there was there was nobody flying around groups and stuff like that. But today there are. We're
Mm-hmm.
starting to see that, which is good. I think it's a good thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that really started with that. There were a few groups that were every maybe once in a year get to go on a flight somewhere. But now
Yeah.
it's becoming it's becoming like more so and so, and that's a good thing I
Yeah.
think because people have to
Yeah.
understand, as you mentioned earlier, most of those people have families, and to be away from your family for weeks on end is pretty tough, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard on your family as well. And I'd like to say, right then and there, like I'm grateful for my beautiful wife for always supporting me and helping me along because I would have never become anything near where I'm at today in my life if it wasn't for my wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think like it's going in a good direction. I really think like that Grammy appearance really helped that, and
Mm-hmm.
not just for us, but for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, like it brought our music. Like people realized that it isn't just a bunch of people banging on drums, or it's actually a genre of music.
Yeah.
That's what it is,
Yeah.
and it was like I cannot express the feeling that I got right there. It wasn't about look at us on stage. It was like, man, I'm gonna tell you, like every one of those guys I was on stage with and the girl, they were
Mm-hmm.
all in tears
Mm-hmm.
after that. Like it was totally emotional because though the auditorium was filled with non-native people, it was like millions of our ancestors were there. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember that. I still remember it really well from 2017 because we were given tickets for the after party and that, but I was spent
Mm-hmm.
after we performed in that. And I went back to the hotel room. Myself and Jonas went back to the hotel room. The rest of the guys went to the evening performance and the after party. But I went back to the hotel room and I was texting with my wife. And I was telling her like, and
Mm-hmm.
she said she watched it on the screen. That was really wow, and that, And after that, I went to bed. I slept. Well, I woke up about 6 o'clock and I picked up my phone and I checked our page. We had like over 3 million hits on our page. Boom, just
Wow.
like that. Boom. And it wasn't all like it was a lot of First Nations, but
Yeah.
we did something that impacted for our people
Wow.
to other people.
Yeah.
And I'm always grateful for that. To
Mm-hmm.
be just a part of that was a real blessing. Could have been anybody else. It
Mm-hmm.
was, yeah.
Very
But that,
much.
like I said before, the drum will take you to places you never even dreamed of. It's unbelievable. If you take care of it, it's going to take care of you. All you singers out there.
Good words, man. I want to say thanks for coming on the show today. You've been a phenomenal guest. I know we've been wanting to connect for quite a while. Uh, for all the folks out there listening and tuning in, if they want to book Northern Cree to come to their event, where do they go? Where do they contact you guys?
You can book us right on our page. Just please contact us right on our page at northerncree.com, and somebody will answer you. It sometimes takes a day or two. There's a few of us that monitor it. So, but we do get back to everyone, and we try to accommodate, as I said, as many of the invitations as that we get.
Hmm,
Uh, we can't do them all, but we try to do as many as we can. Um,
absolutely.
like I said, it's not a livelihood. All of us, like I'm a retired school administrator. I just
Mm-hmm.
retired this year,
Mm-hmm.
31 years in education. But all of the guys in my group either have jobs, careers. When we're invited to communities, to schools, and that we like to introduce ourselves and put a positive spin on it. That it's about miwatsu, balance between the
Mm-hmm.
two. We need this over here, what we're doing, our language, who we are, our identity. But we're living in a Western European world, so we have to learn
Mm-hmm.
how to balance those things in between, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
can't always go to every one, but we try to go to as many of them as we can, and we try to
Right.
go to as many that we have never visited. Okay?
Uh, well, right on, man. Good talking to you as always. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. We certainly wish you, your family, as well as the Northern Cree Singers, all the best, and we look forward to hearing some of your good music in 2024. We'll be sure to put some links on where you can reach out to Northern Cree, their social media, as well as get their music on iTunes or whatever social media digital platform you use. Check them out, Northern Cree Singers. Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Wait a sec there. I
Sure.
want to I want to emphasize, John, to the people out there when you said getting their music. If you really want to support the drum groups, individual First Nations artists, please buy from them. Buy their music from them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't download it off of Spotify because 3 million streams gives that group $30. That's what it
It's
is.
true.
And if you really want to support the groups, buy the music directly from them.
Are
And
you
and
still actively taking CDs out around the Powwows too? You
and
still
and
have?
that's what I'm gonna say. Like,
Hmm.
buy their CDs. Like people say, "Oh,
Hmm.
CDs are out because the young people are all about Spotify and iTunes."
Hmm.
No, they're
Hmm.
not. CDs
Hmm.
are probably because you're not going to get like the information that's given to you on the inside of those covers,
No,
those jackets on a download,
you're
and
right.
that
Yep.
and when you buy those CDs, you're directly giving your money to the drum group or to the artist is what you're doing. And please, I encourage you to see the drum groups. And you're absolutely right about their merchandise. Help them through their merchandise. They're not making millions, but what they're doing is it's supporting their travels. So that way it alleviates
Hmm.
cost for them, as I mentioned earlier. And you're right about people developing logos. I mean, this is our logo right there.
Love it.
Okay.
Love it. Yeah.
All right.
I think I was following on your Facebook page. There you got more merch back in stock, I believe, more
Yeah.
hoodies and hats and stuff.
Yeah,
So
we have. We're just restocking our online store, but we have like fitted hats for sale online
hmm.
right now, and we have a number of them, and we have some hoodies, but we're restocking it with hoodies and t-shirts, etc. Okay.
Awesome. Well, we'll post those links so people can get out and check out your merch. I, for one, definitely need to get some. I got to get me a Northern Cree hoodie. So holidays are just around the corner. So we got to get those gifts for everybody, right?